Hey, what's up, y'all? And of course, welcome to another Alternative Factuals video. And here's your weekly video. Of course, going to be about Black Lightning. And like I said, let me know if you're going to be discussing some other things and all that stuff when it comes to Black Lightning in general. Simply because I will be trying to do some new things so that way I can bring you guys better content and more of it. But also in general, just let me know things that you like to see in different formats. Like I said, do you want me to go back to live videos? I did a couple videos, and like I said, the first one did pretty okay. The second one was like, but I think that more or less had to do with the topic less than the actual, physicality of the video itself when it came to seeing my face. Anyways, so I'm going to be discussing Gravedigger. I was going to do a video about Gravedigger a while ago, and I think I completely forgot to do it, or at least I didn't do it because maybe at the time not enough people knew that Wayne Brady was going to be coming on as Gravedigger. I did mention it in another video, and I forget which one it is, and if I remember by the time this video is uploaded and, public, then I will obviously, talk about it, discuss it, and we will move forward from there. But before I dive into any details about Gravedigger and, Wayne Brady, and if Wayne Brady is going to have to choke a bitch, please be sure to like, share, and of course subscribe. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you're feeling. And without further and or possibly even more ado, let's kind of just jump into this. Okay, so there are multiple iterations of the character of Gravedigger. Now, there's Ulysses Hazard, there's Perseus Hazard, and there's Tyson Sykes. So when it comes to Black Lightning, the version that they're using for the Gravedigger character or the, soldier would be the Tyson Sykes version. But I'm going to go over minor history when it comes to Gravedigger and when it comes to, the overall character and whatnot. Gravedigger is basically a code name used by, like I said, two fictional characters, Captain Ulysses Hazard, the first Gravedigger, which debuted in Men of War #1 in August of 1977, and basically Tyson Sykes, who was the second Gravedigger and debuted in Checkmate Volume 2, number 25 in June of 2008, and was created by Greg Rucka and Eric Trautman. So basically, when it comes to the original Ulysses Hazard, he was basically a person who suffered from polio way back in the day as a child, and he was basically tormented by bullies, and he had a pretty rough childhood. Now, after like a certain regimen of exercise, he was able to condition his body to, optimum levels. He was, I wouldn't say enhanced, but he definitely was able to overcome the, the polio, and eventually he pulled a Forrest Gump. And when the United States entered World War II, Ulysses joined the army but found himself basically in segregated military, because remember, during the time the first Gravedigger came into play, this is August of 1977, so they're writing based on previous times that they had encountered in United States history. So of course, they're going to talk about segregation and segregated armies and stuff like that happened in real time for real, but ultimately this is the comic book version, and of course he's going to either get some powers or get enhanced in some way, shape, or form. But basically the unit he was involved in burying bodies, supply deliveries, and basically kitchen forks and all that stuff, and basically he was extremely frustrated. So he overcame polio and wasn't allowed to fight, and then ultimately the Pentagon saw that he had skills and allowed him to fight, and basically he became a special one-man unit by the Pentagon known as Gravedigger. Okay, so basically we're going to move away from that. That's the foundation. That's the original Gravedigger character, so at least you have some sort of history on why he was called Gravedigger, all that stuff, and why that kind of works the way it does. Now, Tyson Sykes. Now, Tyson Sykes is the second African-American fictional character who was known as Gravedigger, by the way. Now, he is a Checkmate operative whose field designation is Rook Alpha. So let me kind of rewind the clock a little bit. So as you already know, in the Arrowverse, in the whole CW universe, when it comes to superheroes, we know that Checkmate is a thing. Checkmate is actually out there in the Arrowverse. We've seen it before in Arrow, and I think Diggle is well aware of Checkmate as well, obviously. And also when it came to Smallville, Checkmate was a thing as well when it came to, I believe, Lex Luthor's cousin. I forget the exact episode, but Checkmate has always been a thing. It's always been a behind the scenes thing. Whenever there's a Justice League, whenever there's superheroes, whenever there's DC characters related to some sort of Justice League or anything like that, Checkmate will somehow be involved in some way, shape, or form. Now, for those of you who don't know what Checkmate is and how heavily Checkmate is involved in a lot of the DC events and stuff like that, Checkmate is basically a division of Task Force X. It's a fictional covert operations agency appearing in, basically DC Comics, as I already said. And basically it first appeared in Action Comics number 598. And its primary function basically is just, use metahumans or, gather intel on metahumans and different forms of people who are enhanced and use them in, kind of conjunction with the government. And most of the time you see this in command position by, like, you know, Amanda Waller, for example. And then, you know, basically she's using them to carry out these missions because she sees them as expendables. There's different subsections to it as well, but I'm just giving you like the overall kind of thing. But yeah, so Tyson Sykes. So basically his power is kind of what they did in the show. Now, Tyson in the comics, he gained the telepathic ability by injecting himself with a solution called apocryptic. That's literally what it's called, like apocryptic. But it was basically made from Starro's DNA. So what they did was he had some level of telepathy. It wasn't such an extreme degree like John the Martian, or, you know, let's say comparatively speaking, you know, being able to, you know, control the minds of everyone on the planet. However, he was able to do, you know, basically control people's minds to some degree, read people's minds to some degree. Now, they took that concept in when it came to the Black Lightning TV show, and yeah, he still has that telepathic ability, and obviously he didn't gain it from Starro. It was because he was a metahuman and they stabilized his gene, but ultimately they gave him enhanced strength, enhanced speed. But ultimately his primary power and what makes him dangerous is simply the fact that his telepathic ability is related to subtle suggestion. And what that means is he can make you feel like you want to do something even though in your mind you don't want to. So as we saw when it came to Dr. Lynn Stewart, when Gravedigger was speaking to her, he was like, hey, I want you to make as much of the cure as humanly possible. She automatically started working. And at first she was just working. Even though she didn't want to, she still had to work. It wasn't so much either like you forced to work and then you can't do anything else in between that, but he just said as humanly possible, meaning within the parameters of her abilities and what she's capable of physically, she had to make as much of the metahuman stabilizing cure as possible. So it's very interesting. Like I said, it's like a subtle suggestion thing where like you're not fully aware that it's affecting you until someone brings it to your attention. And obviously the way that Dr. Lynn Stewart was able to get over it was the simple fact that she had to override the urge in her brain and her frontal lobe by overcharging it with stimulation from the green light, which allowed her to override it. So that was very interesting. Now, even though the video itself, in terms of me describing what his powers are and what his powers could be, even though it's not really too, it's not really too difficult to, you know, kind of digest. Overall, Gravedigger, I think, is one of the characters who I think is going to be a problem. Just simply because, one, his hand-to-hand combat skills are off the charts. He was able to keep up with Khalil, who, even at this point, even though they were able to bring his mind, his subconscious mind forward and basically leave the painkiller program behind a firewall, he still had access to all the combat skills, weaponry, and basically he still had his enhanced strength, all accessible to him, and he still was able to take Khalil out. So when it comes to fighting, and hand-to-hand ability, it is off the charts. There's no way, you know, like he can be taken lightly when it comes to situations like that. Second, his speed is a lot faster than Khalil's as well. As you saw when he rushed Khalil when he had the guns, he literally looked like a blur for a second, sped up on him, and then kept him at bay and literally was exchanging hands with him as if it was no problem at all. Now, you have to pay attention to that because someone who has that level of speed and strength can definitely be a problem, even for characters like Black Lightning. Remember, even though Black Lightning was to some degree holding back, Khalil was still able to stop Black Lightning's heart, and also he was using the help of Tobias, who had enhanced strength, but let's not get into that. For the most part, like I said, he has speed and enhanced strength. That is out of control. But besides that, let's move forward. Now, like I said, his telepathic ability is the reason why I'm most worried. Subtle suggestion is very scary because unless you know how his powers work and how his suggestion works, ultimately you will not see or realize that he's manipulating you in some way, shape, or form. Like, you don't want to do something, but for some reason you're doing it anyway, despite the fact that you don't want to. And basically, he's someone who could be pulling strings behind the scene. So let's say hypothetically, this was the last episode we ever saw him ever again, even though I'm pretty sure we're going to see him in the next one or the one after that. Or just we might be seeing him in every episode until the end of the season, whatever. Ultimately, let's say if we don't see him hypothetically ever again, his character doesn't have to physically be present for him to be affecting the universe of, you know, Black Lightning or the world of Black Lightning, simply because he can literally set off a chain of events from behind the scene just with his powers alone. And unless someone suspects it's him who's doing it, no one would cure the cure the person who's under his effects of his subtle suggestion. So let's say, for example, if somehow Gravedigger got a hold of Lady Eve, he can suggest that Lady Eve sets off a chain of events that can affect Black Lightning, and then ultimately he can tell Tobias something else, which can set off another chain of events. Basically, he can set off multiple events at the same time, and no one will suspect it's him just due to the nature of his power. So even though he may not be the most physically, powerful when it comes to combat ready, even though he is definitely, a master hand-to-hand combatant, ultimately he can prove the most difficult to defeat simply because he can already be setting things in motion, or he can set things in motion, which ultimately I think is the reason why the Markovians see him as one of the best assets, because with a power like that, you can destabilize a government overnight. So let me know what you think about Gravedigger. Let me know what you thought about the episode as well. I'm really enjoying Black Lightning, some of the choices that they're making. I'll get into character details a little bit later on in a different video, or let me know if you're, want to talk about it in Discord or something like that in the comments. Let me know. Like I said, just let me know in the comments down below. And if you're new to the channel, please be sure to like, share, and of course subscribe. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you're feeling. And I hope to see you later on. Peace out.